Hi guys, and welcome to another Emacs tutorial. In the last tutorial, we talked about the internal system files inside of Emacs. We also talked a little bit about our .emacs.e directory. We talked about starting Emacs from the command line, and we talked about where Emacs is installed once you install Emacs from Package Manager, or you build Emacs from source on an Ubuntu 25.04 computer system, or on Windows, or on WSL. In this video tutorial, we're going to talk about the Emacs desktop files. On Ubuntu, they're called desktop files. On Windows, they are called shortcuts, and this is the files that you can configure, so you can double click the files. You can see one on my desktop right there. You can also put them in your panels. Here we've got some panels you can see popping out on the side on the top of my Ubuntu system. So let's take a look at what the Emacs desktop files are, what we use them for, and how we can configure them on Ubuntu 25.04. So as you can see, desktop files are files that you can click to start your Emacs program. You can also add them to panel widgets via the launcher widgets. Desktop files control how an application appears in your menus on the desktop or in an application launcher. They contain metadata such as the app's name, icon, command to run, and or the categories. You can follow this free desktop.org desktop entry specification, and it uses a structured format with specific fields. What are desktop files composed of? What are the fields? We've got the desktop entry in square brackets. That's the header that marks the start of the file. We've got these applications, which defines the entry as an application launcher. Other types are sort of links and directories. We have a name, that's the visible name of the application. In the menus, you can see the menus down on the side over here. If we click on this menu, all of these programs, all of these shortcuts, they all come from these desktop files. So here we've got the command, and this is what we care about when we're talking about Emacs, because we want to specify which Emacs program we're going to start from our .desktop file, and we also want to specify the arguments that we're going to use to start our Emacs program. We can also specify the icon. You can see I've got some icons that I found on the web. Somebody created a lot of nifty icons. There's a lot of icons. It's nice to have better icons, so it's something to do with your theming on your desktop. And you probably will want to find some other icons and explore adding those. That's something you can do in your .desktop file. Categories determines where the app appears in the menus, whether it's in the utility section or in the application section. Terminal, you can set to true if the app needs a terminal window, and false otherwise. And no display hides the app from the menus, but it keeps it functional. So our actions is a section where you can enable customize actions like open the new window, accessible via a right click if you wanted to do that. Desktop actions defines additional actions, external actions like Exec, Firefox, and new window. So where do the desktop files go? System-wide, they can affect all of the users. User share applications. I typically don't use the system-wide desktop files. I almost always put them in .local, .share, .applications. Here you've got user-specific, only affects the current user. Local, share applications. Flatpak apps, I can never find the Flatpak app shortcuts. Leave them alone as much as possible. They're in var lib flatpak exports share applications, or in .local share flatpak exports share applications as well. Snap apps, you've got them in the var, the lib, the snapd, the desktop applications. And what to avoid. So never edit your files, obviously, in your user share applications directly, but copy them to the local share applications to avoid being overwritten during updates. So this is the idea of keeping everything that you customize in your user files rather than in your root directory. So here's an example of a .desktop file, and we're going to take a look at one as well. We can actually do that right now. Let's go to our .local directory, and we will look for the share directory, and we'll look for the applications. So these are all desktop files. Some of them are symlinks, or they've been symlinked, you can see. And we'll take a look at one. So let's have a look at the .emacs.lounge desktop file. This is the Emacs Lounge desktop file. This is the declaration that it is a desktop file. We've got some comments, we've got some generic names. Maybe these matter when you tooltip over the desktop file. This is important. This is the execution line. So here we are actually executing the Emacs program. So I'm pointing directly to the Emacs program. We're actually pointing to a symlink. We've got the Q argument. This could be a capital Q argument as well. We're loading the specific file, and this is the file that we're loading. And we're actually adding an extra argument here to give it a name. That's an Ubuntu.desktop convention, which is going to enable us to tie this program to a desktop window so that we can customize the desktop window using our Ubuntu system. Here we've got the icons, specific icon, which this desktop file is going to load. That's not what we're going to see when we change with meta tab, but it is what we're going to see when we see the actual shortcut. So we've got terminal false, startup notifies true, the type is the application, and then we've got some categories, developer, text editor, and of course we've got this class, which is also important when we are configuring our Emacs program in the Ubuntu desktop system, because we want to again give it a name so that we can tie it to the class so that we can make the customizations that we need. So we've got the desktop action under a new instance case. This is something that we can do for the new instance. You can have it create a new frame rather than tapping into an existing frame. So that's an example of a desktop file, and this is where you would put a desktop file. And essentially, whether you install Emacs from source through a package manager, whether you build it from source, you're going to be making these desktop files. If you install it as the default, desktop file will be built for you, but you probably want to do this yourself. You want to create your own desktop file and customize it. And of course, if you're on Windows, this is going to be done a little bit differently. You can customize it from the command line using this tool, which I've never used, but apparently there's a tool here that you can use to customize your desktops from the command line. So when you're on Windows, you've got a totally different system, and we use it and think about it in a different way. So you're probably familiar with desktop shortcuts. You go to a program, the executable, and you right click on the program and you put create a desktop or send to desktop, and it creates an actual desktop file. And that file is typically like it's a link to the actual file, to your actual desktop file, which exists in another folder somewhere on your computer. And once you find the actual folder that has a desktop on it, you right click on the properties, and there you will see the option of entering the executable that the shortcut actually starts. So when you're on Windows, you want to use this run emacs.exe and not the Emacs program. This one runs without opening up a shell. So you're going to want to create your own custom shortcut on Windows. I am going from memory here. I no longer use Windows, but keep in mind that you can also start Emacs when you start up your desktop. You can create a task, schedule the task. You can start Emacs as a client or as a daemon in your task scheduler, which is pretty useful if you want to use it as a client or you want to have it running all the time as a daemon. You can do that. So you can move the shortcut to your desktop, pin it to the taskbar, configure the shortcut properties, right click in the target field, ensure it points to the run emacs.exe. And keep in mind, I didn't put it here, but you would then put a capital Q, a capital L, and you would put the path to your configuration file. So this would be your config file. And that would be that. So there you would start up your Emacs, and away you go, you're off to the races. So that's it for the desktop files. That's pretty much everything you need to know. So if you've installed Emacs from the package manager, you've built Emacs from source on your computer system, now you know what's inside of your Emacs installation, what the files are, where you can find the files, what you can do with the files to start them up, how you can start up with a custom initialization file, and you're good to go using Emacs. So thanks so much for watching, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video.